Hi, I'm John Gavin with Disclosure Insight with a quick look at foreign corrupt practices investigations, why they matter to investors. This is part of a series I'm creating on investment risks that hide in plain sight, a topic I speak on often. It's Friday, January 27, 2012. Thanks for being with me. So what is a foreign corrupt practices investigation? I'll talk about that briefly and then I'll give you the 3 reasons they matter. They are, number 1, they represent a material risk exposure to the corporation that has an investigation. Number 2, they represent a potential accounting fraud. And number 3, they represent a potential to severely hurt operations of the corporation accused of engaging in these activities. So what is a foreign corrupt practices investigation? Well, first off, they're showing up a lot. It's a priority area for the SEC and Department of Justice, and most investors scratch their head and say, well, it's just bribery. Who cares? I mean, don't we really want you to bribe the village chief to get access to the gold mine because then we can get more gold out, and that's not so bad compared to the amount of the bribe? Or they'll say, wow, Tyson Foods only paid $5.2 million to settle this thing last February 2011. This is a stupid waste of government resources, and it had no impact on Tyson's bottom line. That is dumb, narrow thinking, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, if the company disclosed the matter to you, they judged it material. So should you. You see, public companies in general are only required to disclose matters that they deem material to investors, that they judge investors would deem material, and management gets to decide. And seeing as management doesn't exactly like to do anything that's negative, they only like to do happy talk, you have to trust them when they disclose something bad that they've judged it to be a material exposure. It doesn't matter how few words, a lot of words, happy talk, lipstick on the pig. If they cross the materiality threshold, trust them. Trust that they judge they have a material exposure, even if it's something so boring and innocuous sounding as foreign corrupt practices. Now, let me talk also about why these things actually matter. Whether you think the village chief should be bribed or not, whether you think Tyson should be allowed to bribe people as they were alleged to have done, in their case, they wanted to have phantom employees on the payroll in Mexico so the Mexican veterinarians would be happy about letting the chickens go through. That's the allegation. They were also alleged to have cooked the books to do it. Oh, one more thing. And they were alleged it was only like $100,000. So if you're willing to cook the books for $100,000 and you're willing to involve all these people, what does that say you're willing to do elsewhere in the company? Okay. If you're going to violate the law, if you decide you need to do this, then as the analyst, as the professional investor, as the amateur investor, the question that you have to answer is, so what is the proper accounting treatment for a bribe? See, you're breaking the law. How are you accounting for it? Because no money moves inside corporations without a paper trail. Oh, wow, new questions. Who signed off on it? What does it say about the adequacy of your internal controls? Oh, aren't they supposed to be good and keep this from happening? And now what's your auditor going to think when they find out? All right. We know it's material because they told you about it. We know now why it's a potential accounting fraud. And that's why the SEC gets into the act. They don't want to see dirty accounting or disclosures. Investors need accounting and disclosures we can rely on to make good decisions, and the SEC knows that, and that's why they get lit up about it. But the third reason these things matter is operationally. If you judge that it matters so much to you that those bribes go through, that you're in environments where you have to compete because everyone bribes, if the only way to conduct business is slush funds, winks and nods, dollars under the table, or any currency under the table, what happens when you can't bribe anymore? What happens when you get your wings clipped? How does that operationally affect you around the globe in your operations if bribery was thought part of how you did business? That's the risk. Foreign corrupt practices investigations, they aren't going away, they're poorly analyzed, and yet you now know 3 critical things as to why they matter. Number 1, if the company told you about it, it's now a material exposure. Treat it as such. Number 2, you now know color on the exposure, that it has a tinge of accounting fraud to it. And number 3, you now know that it has operating implications going forward. Foreign corrupt practices investigations, part of our series on investment risks that hide in plain sight. With that, I'm John Gavin at Disclosure Insight. Have a great day.
you.